Currently the 19th of August 2015, meteorologist Robert Spetta here with you today. Before I get into today's update, I want you to take a second and look at the satellite imagery. Two powerful typhoons out here. This has not happened very often. Actually, since I started working here in the Western Pacific in 2009, I have not seen this. Actually, typically you have one powerful typhoon and a weaker typhoon, possibly because the more stronger one feeds on the smaller one. And you have to look all the way back to 2007 was the last time we had two very strong typhoons basically side by side out here. And the thing is, both of these storm systems are actually forecasted to continue to strengthen. Of course, let's start off with Goni. That is the storm system here on the left. This one will be impacting many more people than Atsani, which was off there towards the right. And you can see here with the morphed microwave imagery, you basically have our eye wall, lots of convection along the southern periphery, but it's starting to wrap up. It's starting to reconsolidate. I know we had a little bit of weakening with this storm system, but it's moving over some, well, pretty warm sea surface temperature, around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, and that's why the Japan Meteorological Agency has this storm system re-intensifying from a 95 knots sustained going back up to about 100 knots sustained, gusting to 140 knots. Even the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, TWC, actually has this as a Category 3, intensifying to a Category 4 equivalent on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and then eventually weakening back off as it starts to turn off here towards the north. By the way, I'm using the Weather Underground graphic here because the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, that's JTWC, their website's not working, but something a lot of people don't realize, and might be a new fact for a lot of you, Weather Underground, they reflect what JTWC puts out. So, if you're looking at Weather Underground, you're actually looking at the U.S. military forecast, and this is exactly what they're saying with our storm moving basically right over Ishigaki, and then staying just towards the west of Okinawa. Now, one thing I have noticed with the track, and I know we have a lot of people watching from eastern Taiwan, good news for you is something I have noticed, and kind of bad news for those of you in Okinawa, is the track has been leaning farther and farther towards the right, or farther towards the east. And actually, you can see this in the computer models. This is the GFS, just the one GFS model being shown here on the Weather Underground platform. It's actually a little bit closer here towards the island of Okinawa. And the thing is, it puts you right in the right front quadrant. Now, when you have a storm system, especially coming in from the southwest here, you do not need it to move directly over the island. Actually, that would be a better case scenario if it moved right over like that. The right front quadrant allows the max winds to hit the area over the longest duration of time. Plus, once the storm system starts to move off here towards the northeast, it's going to be moving on a faster forward momentum. Now, think of it this way. If you got hit by somebody throwing something out of a car at 20 kilometers per hour while the car was moving at 30 kilometers per hour, the object would hit you at 50 kilometers per hour. Now, if you got hit on the left side, so let's say somebody threw something backwards at you out of a car at 20 and the car was moving forward at 30, you'd only see 10 kilometer per hour winds. So really, that's why, and one of the big reasons what we're talking about here, especially with Naha, when you get a storm coming in from the southwest, possibility of being impacted with the right front quadrant. Even with a weaker storm system, which they're showing a Category 2 to 1 equivalent on the Saffir-Simpson scale at that time, still enough to blow stuff around. And that's why I'm really suggesting everybody here in Taiwan. Now, Taiwan looks like it shouldn't get a direct hit. Main reason is we have a subtropical ridge back here towards the east, but we have passing troughs back here towards the northwest that should lift this off here towards the north. And if you don't believe me, actually, let's take a look at a satellite imagery really fast. I'll just show this to you. This is what I'm talking about here. So all these areas in the darker colors, that's our subtropical ridge, which is basically extending south of Japan, slightly degrading with a passing trough just east of Japan, allowing Atsani to kind of track off here towards the northwest. But the thing is, it extends all the way to about Okinawa area, and then we have a lot of these brighter cloud tops for southeastern portions of China. Now, that's our passing trough, and the thing is, all of this is going to lift our storm system north. So basically, as far as the tropical system is concerned, this is a valley right through here where our jet stream's kind of located, and we have our subtropical ridge right in there, which is a mountain, and our tropical systems are water. So this wants to flow around the mountain into the valley and extend off here towards the north. And it does look like our valley basically extends just west of Okinawa at this time. Then you can see it with this one little cloud line actually streaking down here towards the south. This should follow in behind that and lift off here towards the north, pending any significant changes in the synoptic layout. That is actually one reason why we do have a cone of air when we're talking about tropical systems, because a synoptic layout can change, and that allows the storm system to waver farther towards the west or towards the east. At least at this time, pretty confident on a recurvature coming up on Friday and the Saturday before a storm starts to jet off there towards the northeast, having a pretty direct impact, especially on Ishigaki and Miyako-jima, and you can see that here happening on Saturday and the Sunday. Basically Sunday, Ishigaki taking the brunt of this storm system. The good news, and we all know this if you've ever watched any of my video updates before, Ishigaki and Miyako are the most prone areas on Earth for typhoons, and the residents there reflect this. They know how to handle these storm systems. They know how to get through it with stride, and basically you just gotta hunker down and wait for the storm system to pass. Actually, the most thing I worry about is the rainfall wrapping around with this storm coming into northern portions of Taiwan. That's going to be a big scenario out here. This area is still recovering from Sodalor, and as we know, these mountains can squeeze out that moisture, cause some pretty significant flooding. The other area I'm worried about with this storm is, of course, the U.S. military out here, because as I mentioned, the residents of these southern Japanese islands, and no offense to the military, they all take with these storm systems with stride, but the thing is, especially in some of these areas out here that are extremely westernized, they have a lot of lawn furniture outside, trampolines, things like that. This is not typically a problem in the southern Japanese islands outside of there, so you really want to take those precautions, guys, especially even if you get Category 1 strength winds, which it's very well possible can really toss those things about, cause some damage. So some things to keep in mind. Our storm, as it does start to track off there towards the north and eventually north-northeast before impacting portions of Kyushu and maybe even over there towards Korea as a much weaker storm system. So a lot of people liked this yesterday. I compared up some of the models. I'm going to do that again really fast here. So what you're looking at is the ECMWF. By the way, I'm using Tropical Tidbits. Actually, a good friend of mine made this website. Really useful tool. This is the GFS, much closer to the southern Japanese islands, moving right over Ishigaki and just putting those of you in the right front quadrant on Okinawa. Meanwhile, let's actually look at the NavGem, very similar output. The difference with the NavGem, yesterday it was showing our storm system weakening over Taiwan. It kind of backs off on that this time. And with JMA, why not? Because JMA actually still weakening our storm over Taiwan. And in the long range, actually brings Atsani much closer to the coast of Honshu than what some of the other models indicate. Speaking of Atsani, let's switch gears, talk about this one. Storm system, by far the stronger of these twin typhoons. The good news, she's out in open ocean. It's what I call a fish storm for the most part. Means only the fish are really being impacted by this one. The thing is, you can't discount the 2,000 people on these islands. See all this red area, that dry air off here towards the northwest of it? You have a couple islands popping up right in there. That's these areas in kind of the little white dots. That's actually Chichi and Hahajima. Some of the Americans may know it as Iwo Jima is also situated in there. But the thing is, about 2,000 people live there. Much like Ishigaki and Miyako-jima, they are definitely used to typhoons, so you really don't have to worry about them too much, but you can't discount them at the very least. So Atsani, going through an eye wall replacement cycle, that's this inner area of the colors, kind of fading out, and that outer band right in here coming in. That's what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, actually, guys. So there's a quick weather 101 for you. It really just comes through, the storms weakens slightly, then re-intensifies, and that's actually why on the visible satellite imagery I showed you at the beginning of the update, Atsani looked like a pretty powerful beast. I love JMA's warning scale, large and very strong. It's actually expected to become large and violent. Moving off here towards the north-northwest, pressure continuing to drop down to around 910 HBA with winds of 110 gusting to 115 knots before it moves just towards the east. As I mentioned earlier, the right front is the worst, so it's moving east of Chichi and Hahajima, but staying out to sea before hopefully missing the Izu Islands completely and turning towards the northeast away from mainland Japan, including most of you in Honshu out here. Thing is, you're still going to see some pretty rough waves, so something to keep in mind. For now, that is all for me today, everyone. A 10-minute long update. I hope you all stayed watching all the way through. If you are actually listening to my voice right now, post it in the comment box down below. I always appreciate the feedback with that. One of the things, once I get over 5 minutes, I'm always worried people kind of trail out. So yeah, that's all. And thanks again for watching. Stay safe out there. And all right, have a good day.